R&B in 1970 was a paradox. The music of defiance sounded like surrender. But listen closer. Sly Stone refused resolution. Stevie Wonder seized the machines. Aretha Franklin claimed the piano. From Detroit to Philadelphia to Los Angeles to Washington to Miami, black artists were breaking genre rules and polite society's expectations, not with anger alone, but with ownership, with mastery, with refusal. These 13 songs didn't ask permission, they seized it. Sly Stone released Thank You in January 1970 at Record Plant, forcing the family Stone to abandon verse-chorus architecture entirely. The collision happened fast. Larry Graham's slap bass came through a fuzz box, metallic and growling like industrial machinery, while Sly stripped the song down to a single relentless cyclic groove. Critics balked. This wasn't peace and love anymore. This was the sound of the 60s optimism collapsing into 70s urban disillusionment. With every metallic slap hammering the coffin shut. The track refused to resolve, refused comfort, refused the old rules. What happened when a teenage boy from Gary, Indiana heard that same groove? The Jackson 5 delivered I'll Be There in August 1970 from Motown Studio A in Detroit, shattering the bubblegum expectation with unrehearsed soulful maturity. Michael's ad-lib, I'll show you, wasn't scripted. It was raw vulnerability escaping a child's mouth while the harpsichord cut through like glass. Berry Gordy had hand-selected The Corporation to prove these kids weren't a flash. The song moved upward through the black youth demographic, teens claiming their own purchasing power, their own emotional authority. It was the sound of a generation refusing to stay children. But down in Detroit, another blind genius was taking control of his own machine. Stevie Wonder released Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours in June 1970 from Detroit, breaking Motown's quality control stranglehold with his first co-production credit. Eddie Willis played electric sitar, a non-Western texture that Motown's assembly line had never permitted, while Stevie took the production reins completely. The moment mattered. It marked the shift from assembly line to auteur. He was no longer a prodigy in a machine. He was the machine itself, controlling every dial, every harmonic choice. His blindness became irrelevant. His vision became absolute. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, an old shouter was preparing to mourn the generation he'd lost. The Temptations unleashed Ball of Confusion in May 1970 from Detroit, refusing the safe path despite radio's threat of boycott for nihilism. Norman Whitfield forced multi-lead vocals into frenetic chaos. Great guns, civil rights, rockets, moonshots, mirroring the fractured world exploding outside the studio. The lyrics didn't comfort. They cataloged Kent State shootings, Vietnam turmoil. The song was a mirror held up to a nation tearing itself apart, and Motown dared to put it on the radio. It was political defiance wrapped in a Motown groove. One man in Philadelphia had just watched his generation's heroes die. Brook Benton recorded Rainy Night in Georgia in January 1970 at Criteria Studios in Miami. proving the washed-up 50s crooner narrative was a lie disguising raw Atlantic hunger.
I believe it's raining all over the world.
Aretha Martin stripped away orchestral backing, leaving only atmospheric rain sounds and minimalist harmonica framing Benton's isolated vocal.
Right in Georgia.
The choice was radical. Less is more when what remains is a man singing about displacement.
Raining, 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 raining.
The Great Migration had reversed. Black Southerners were feeling urban alienation for the first time.
Well, I feel like it's raining all over the world.
Benton's voice carried that homesickness, that rain, that Georgia distance. It was a sound that would echo through one last defiant statement. Tyrone Davis' cut turned back the hands of time in March 1970 in Chicago, challenging Motown's dominance with the Chicago bounce, a rhythm-bridging R&B and disco. A massive brass section created a wall of sound that was neither Motown nor Northern Soul, but distinctly Chicago, distinctly black entrepreneurship rising. The city was becoming a capital of its own making, and Davis's groove announced it. We don't need Detroit anymore.
If I could turn back the hands of time.
We have our own sound, our own identity, our own economic future. Out in Los Angeles, a band was refusing to edit, refusing to polish, refusing to obey. Wilson Pickett moved to Philadelphia in 1970 and released Cole, Cooke, and Redding, stepping outside the hard shouter pigeonhole to record vulnerability and homage. Gamble and Huff taught him sophistication. The lyric, I'll never forget the things they've done, carried the collective mourning for King, Cooke, Redding.
Can anybody tell me where this is gone?
Pickett wasn't shouting anymore. He was testifying. He was naming the dead, honoring the architects of soul who had shaped his voice before the nation killed them.
Well, before we could do it.
Moving to Philly wasn't escape, it was pilgrimage. In Alabama, a gospel man was about to commit a sacred transgression. Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band released Express Yourself in 1970 from Los Angeles, refusing to over-edit the loose jam session feel that radio standards demanded. The dry snare cracked like street pavement. The vocal command, whatever you do, do it good, came straight from the Watt Street atmosphere without studio polish. The band kept the rawness, kept the texture living, kept the sound of a neighborhood speaking to itself. Post-Watts rebellion had shifted the language. Black is beautiful meant your neighborhood's voice was beautiful, unpolished and raw. Down south, another voice was about to speak a clandestine truth. Johnnie Taylor recorded Steal Away in 1970 at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, with the Swampers, using a gospel squall scream to narrate adultery and clandestine affairs. His gospel background collided with immoral lyrics. The scream, that raw, unpolished vocal cry, became the bridge between sacred and profane.
I won't tell nobody else.
Recording with the Swampers meant crossing cultural lines. Southern greasy soul met polished northern industry and produced something neither could claim alone. It was the sound of the South refusing to apologize, of crossing boundaries that polite society had drawn. In Los Angeles, an older man was about to master his own destiny. Ray Charles released If You Were Mine in September 1970 from Los Angeles, producing himself via Tangerine Records to sidestep the easy listening trap that threatened artistic authority. His raspy vocal, weathered, authoritative, sat against cinematic string arrangements he controlled completely. The Black Power era expected defiance. Ray gave them something deeper, economic self-determination. Tangerine Records meant ownership. It meant master control. It meant a blind man seeing further than the industry that had tried to contain him. In Newark, New Jersey, a producer was about to shift the language of love itself. The Moments released Love on a Two-Way Street in March 1970 from Newark, New Jersey, with Sylvia Robinson emphasizing male vulnerability over the machismo that 1970 demanded. Heavy echo and Celesta, toy piano, created a dreamlike sound that defied radio's expectation of soft soul as weakness. Robinson ceded nothing to radical swagger. Instead, she claimed vulnerability as strength in a radicalized Newark hub for Black arts. Admitting tenderness became an act of resistance. The song whispered when the era shouted. In Washington, D.C., a regional sound was about to sneak onto national radio. The presidents released 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 Years of Love in 1970 from Washington, D.C., fighting regional bias against the D.C. sound with Van McCoy's orchestral sweetening masking street harmonies. The syncopated proto-go-go beat carried street voices that national charts had refused to hear. McCoy's arrangement was a Trojan horse for local community identity. 15, 20, 25, 30. Regional rhythmic codes were becoming national currency, and D.C. was announcing itself. The song proved that geography was destiny. Your neighborhood's heartbeat was your sound's backbone. In Miami, the Queen of Soul was about to seize the throne completely. Aretha Franklin recorded Don't Play That Song in May 1970 at Criteria Studios in Miami, proving her soul queen peak was not behind her but ahead, commanding absolute control. Franklin sat at the piano herself, aggressive, authoritative, while B3 organ stabs punctuated her dominion. Jerry Wexler ceded all direction to Aretha at that keyboard. She was no longer a vocalist channeling male producers' visions. She was the architect, the musician, the producer. The Black woman as architect movement found its anthem in her own hands, literally 10 fingers on ivory proving ownership, control, and the future.